Hi everybody, my name's Dave and thanks for joining me. I thought I'd record a second video after I got a question on my last video. But first of all, t-shirts, the Jackaroo 4-wheel drive channel t-shirts. I finally got a couple test ones, and unfortunately I wore this one when I was camping, so it's a bit dirty. So for me to wear it, I'm going to have to wait till it's been washed. Anyway, where was I going with this? The question that was asked was deep cycle AGM battery in his ute, which charges his alternator while he drives. And he's asking, can he replace it with a lithium battery and do nothing else? And second question was, you have two of these 120 ampere hour AGM batteries in his caravan with an MPPT solar regulator to charge them. Can he just swap them out with lithium as well, or without doing anything else? So I thought I'd address these questions. So we'll address the first question first, which is the 120 ampere hour AGM in his ute. Now he's charging that from his alternator. Now the problem is that I don't know this car, and I don't know if he's using a DC to DC charger or whether he's just got a smart battery isolator. I don't know what it is about this day and age, but we seem to call everything smart alternators, smart battery isolator, but there's nothing smart about them. They're just switches. Basically, a smart battery isolator is a voltage sensitive relay, and all it does is it senses the voltage and turns off or on. That's all it does. It's not smart. I don't know why we call them smart, but anyway, we should call it lazy person's or forgetful person's isolator, because that's what they are really, for people who forget to turn the switch off. So if you have a smart battery isolator or a VSR, voltage sensitive relay, they're both the same thing. What you're basically doing is you're sending power from your alternator via your battery to the battery in the back and charging it up. You can't just replace that battery for a lithium battery because they're different technologies. They charge differently. So you can't charge it directly from your alternator. You have to have a DC to DC charger that is capable of charging a lithium battery. So the answer is, if you have a VSR, no. If you have a DC to DC charger that is lithium capable, then yes, you can. The caravan second question is a little bit different, and I'll get to that in a second. To charge a lithium battery from your alternator, you need to be able to go through a lithium capable DC to DC charger. So no, if you've got a VSR, you can't do it. You're going to have to ditch the VSR. You shouldn't be using a VSR anyway. They're old-fashioned. They were before we had DC to DC chargers, and people still buy them and use them because they're cheap. But you want to future-proof yourself. Get yourself a good DC to DC charger with MPPT solar built into it, and you can have got the best of both worlds. I've explained this in a previous video, and I'm not going to go through it all again, but that's what you need to do. Now, if you've got two batteries in your caravan, and I'm presuming they're connected on parallel, that means you've got two 120 ampere hour lithium batteries. That gives you 120 ampere hours of useful power, because you only get 50%. So if you're charging them with an MPPT solar controller and a solar panel, that MPPT solar controller needs to be lithium capable. Now that answer comes with a bit of a caveat, because Battery World or somebody like that creates a battery. They have got a lithium battery that will charge from an ordinary charger. But how is that possible when you can't do that? When they're possible because their BMS has been written so that it will allow the charging. The BMS is effectively doing the controlling of the battery charging instead of having a DC to DC charger. But the batteries are not going to be cheap. Now, if you want to do both batteries in the back of your caravan, you can't replace, say you've got two AGMs connected together and one of them fails. You can't replace it with a lithium and have a lithium and an AGM connected together. You can't do that. And the reason, even if you could do that, the problem is that the charger or the MPPT charger that's charging them doesn't know whether it's charging AGM or whether it's charging lithium. So you'd have to replace them both. So what you do is you connect two identical batteries of the same capacity and the same make together in parallel, because the batteries need to be balanced. And then once you've done that, then you can then charge them with a lithium capable MPPT controller. The problem you've got is if you put a DC to DC charger in your ute, if you're pulling your caravan with your ute, that's fine. You can run the cable through to the caravan and charge all three batteries. But charging three batteries with one DC to DC charger is going to take a bit of a while, especially if it's like 25 amp. So I would suggest you go and get yourself something a bit bigger. Look at the input voltage amperage on your batteries. So the batteries I have take 60 amp maximum charge. So I've got a 50 amp charger, 50 amp DC to DC charger. So I'm putting 50 amps into my batteries, and they charge up fairly quickly. You know, they're not slow charging. If you're charging them with a 25 amp charger, then you're going to obviously take double the time to charge the same batteries. Now then, that's all good and well. That's how you need to do it. But you need to do, if you're going to use solar, what I would suggest to do in this situation is to run your cable from your battery. You know, you can't use, well, you can use the smart battery isolator cable, but you need an earth. You need to make sure it's earthed properly. Now, what I would suggest is you run your cable from your starter battery through underneath your ute into the back, and then into your caravan and charge the batteries in there. Now I would have the controller in the back of the ute or in the caravan, and then run the MPPT solar panel into the MPPT of the DC to DC charger, and then run the cables back to your ute for that battery, or have a separate charger for that battery, and then a different battery for the front. So the problem being, you can put multiple DC to DC chargers on a car, but the problem is your alternator only has a certain amount of output. Now, even though mine has a 50 amp charger, I only usually get about 45 amps to charge. Now, most DC to DC chargers that come with MPPT and alternator have what's called solar priority. So if you have both plugged in and you have a solar panel on your roof and it's charging as you're driving, it will take all of that charge from the solar panel and put it into your battery. Now, if it only needs that charge to charge your battery, that's what it will use. It won't use your alternator, so therefore it'll save you a bit of fuel. However, if it needs more charge than the solar's producing, it will take it from the alternator. Now, they work differently, but generally they'll take what they need from the alternator, but some will take all of it from the alternator. So, you know, be careful what you buy, be careful what you invest in. Also, one other tip, if you're going to buy a DC to DC charger with lithium, make sure it has a lithium wake-up feature, because if your batteries get to zero and turn off, they won't recharge without a spike of power in them. And some DC to DC chargers will have what's called a lithium wake-up feature, where it'll wake the battery up with a small spike of voltage, and then it'll start to charge again. So lithium batteries can't go down to zero. The BMS will turn them off, but they can trickle away if you don't do anything about charging them quickly after that. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Hopefully that answers the questions, and thanks for watching.